Hey guys, I just wanted to share another story with you guys about a recent experience that I had with our children's court case that we have with the Department of Children's Services. And so I don't know if any of you guys ever experienced having to deal with the children's services, but it's not a very good experience at all. Okay, not for the parents, not for the children involved. So some of you that already follow my group that I have on Facebook kind of already know the background of that story, how that case ended up being opened and then how it remained opened. And so here we are. This court case was kept being rescheduled due to the COVID, and finally last month we were able to do a phone court. And so for those of you that already know the way this works, the court appoints you an attorney to mom, one to dad, and one for the children. And so each one basically has their own attorney. And so when initially the case was actually determined that it was going to be opened, I was told by the attorney then that I needed to go ahead and enroll in parenting classes and DV classes because of the allegations of what dad was saying against me, and that it would look good if I went ahead and just started taking these classes so that when I would go to court, they would see this and hopefully close the case. So I went ahead and did that. But again, like I said, it kept being postponed up until July. Finally, it went from original court date from February to finally have it in July. So like 4 whole months, and I'm taking these classes. And so finally, we're on the phone, and so we have all these attorneys, and also they contacted my ex-husband, which is my son's father, and he was also there with his attorney. So now we have 2 men in my past, 2 abusive men in my past, one who was physically abusive, which is my ex-husband, and one who's emotionally, financially, sexually abusive. Because let me tell you guys something. A lot of people think that abuse is just physical, and that's not true. There's so many forms of abuse, okay? There's psychological, emotional, physical, sexual, financial, verbal, emotional. I don't know if I already said that, but so a lot of people think, well, he's not hitting me, but yet he is withholding finances. Yet he is verbally abusing you, or being passive aggressive. All that's are forms of abuse. And yet a lot of times, like for people like me that really trying to hold on to a family, you kind of tend to ignore those things. You don't see him really as a, well, he's not hitting me. As long as he doesn't hit me, you tend to take all that stuff, and it's not up until you had enough where you actually react. It's suddenly you're the perpetrator, and suddenly they're the victim. The actual abuser becomes a victim. So girls, this has been a major experience for me. I heard a pastor say last week that whatever you go through, you are growing through it and not just going through it. And so that really resonated with me, because I feel like every experience in our life, we need to see it as a growing experience, and otherwise it continues to be a cycle. And that's kind of what I learned from this. Also being in that court with my 2 exes, and just saying, wow, how did I get here? I've had all these experiences with different men, and they all seem to have the same similar characteristics. They're abusive in one way or the other. And yet I took it, except for the physical. I doubt, my ex that was there that was physically abusive, I didn't tolerate much. There was a restraining order for 5 years against him, and he was in jail, and all this other stuff did happen. And so it's even crazy for me to even talk about it. But the same person that used to wait for me at midnight to come out of work, because during that time I was working really late at the hospital, and I was pregnant. I was about 5 months pregnant, and this guy would wait for me to get off of work, and he would be following me, almost ramming into the back of my car. And I'm pregnant. Can you imagine if I were to get in a car accident? I not only could have killed myself, but the baby that I was carrying. And this man didn't care. And even though he had a restraining order, he still didn't care. And then later he got married again, and then the wife started stalking me at my job. She would call my job, get checked in into, I used to work at the ER, get checked in into the ER, just to see if I was there. Thank God, like every time that she came, that because she would ask for me and ask questions about me, that's how I knew she was there. But thank God, I those days I was not scheduled to work. And then when she finally gave birth to their first child, she called my job, and again I wasn't there, but she left me this message saying that she had just gave birth to their first son, and that rubbing it in basically, and that they were very happy, and all kinds of stuff. And all this time I just kept quiet, like I just would avoid them. This woman even came to my job to serve me with some court papers, because suddenly he wanted to have joint custody of our son, which to this day he doesn't see. Anywho, so the Children's Services decide to look for the paternal father, right? And so they find him, and all of a sudden he becomes this, oh, I want to be involved. Oh, I want to be a part of my son's life. It's mom that kept me away from him. I couldn't see him because of mom. And mind you, all this time I have been receiving child support for him. And, because of so many years that he was not working, and he accumulated a lot of money, and so the man owes me a lot of money. And for those of you that know how child support works, you would know that if you don't pay, and if you have a certain amount of money that you owe, you get flagged. And so they start taking your taxes. If there's any retirement, they'll take your retirement. They'll start suspending licenses and stuff like that. And so that's what happened to him. I ended up getting a year of his taxes. I got some of his retirement, and it wasn't even me pushing it. It was the child support services that does all that, but he thought it was me, that I was coming after his finances. So him and his wife just hate me. And so I really feel that this was the opportunity for them. Okay, I'm gonna get her back, and so that happened. So we're in this court, and this guy is saying that I was stalking him, that I had did something to his car, and all this without evidence, nothing. Okay, and so this attorney for dad over here is using that also against me. Says, see, even her ex-husband is saying that she would stalk him. So clearly she's this she has a history of being abusive and stuff. And so this whole time I'm just listening to everything. Of course, my ex-husband, the one that was physically abusing me, never said a word. He just stood quiet. Everything that he said, he reported it to the investigator. But once in court, he said nothing. And so we're just listening to everything they were saying. And so I'm just listening, and as I'm listening to all these accusations and all these lies, I'm just like, my spirit is just being weighed down. I start feeling really, really horrible. I'm like, wow, that person they're describing is not me, And I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, when someone's talking so bad about you and accusing you of stuff that you're not, and having to hear that stuff. It's not a very good feeling, especially in court, because you can't really say anything, What are you going to say? Oh, that's a lie. That's not true. You just pretty much there listening, and hoping that they could see through the lies. And so again, all these allegations, nothing was proven. But what kept the case open was because of dad trying to take control of our son's mental health. There's been an ongoing thing with Josiah, that it's been a struggle trying to get our child the proper help. And because dad was taking control and discrediting me from, with the doctors, it became hard for me to be able to get my son the help that he needed, the therapy. But thank God that they did address it. So it was like a blessing in disguise, because yes, I'm hearing all these negative, horrible lies, but at the same time, they're gonna help me because he can't control the whole medical thing anymore. They put an order in where he had to back off, that he couldn't cancel my appointments, he couldn't move them anymore, he couldn't remove my information the way he was doing, because he was removing my phone number and my information so that they couldn't contact me, only him. And so a lot of times I was out of the loop of things, and because the insurance is through him, he had full control about what's going on, basically, with that. And so that was a blessing in disguise, because I was able to finally get my son in, and now he's getting the therapy that he needs. And so moms out there, if you guys have it in your heart that you feel that something's going on with your son, that's more than, even if the other person doesn't agree, but you in your heart know, because you see signs in your child that are not right, you have to push that. Because if I would have just let him continue that control, fine, I don't want to argue like I used to, just leave it alone just to have peace. But when it comes to your children, that's different. You have to fight. And so thank God now my son is getting the therapy. He's getting occupational therapy. He's going to be getting social skills therapy, therapy for his ADHD. He's currently taking medication, even though I'm not fully up for that yet. But if it's going to help him, then I'm up for it. So anyways, fast forward to hearing all this stuff, they decided to keep the case open because of that. Because they said the allegation was, okay, well, parents clearly need us to be supervising them when they can't even come to an agreement mutually about their son's health, which unfortunately was true. Because if he's coming against me like that, I'm not going to agree to that. I'm going to oppose it, and I'm glad that I did. And so, it remained open. And about the DV classes, the attorney said, oh, well, she was told this, but that's why she didn't take her counseling for DV. She's been taking classes. But again, the attorney for dad was pushing, well, she should. She's an abuser. She should keep taking them. And I said, yes, she does. And so they ordered for me to finish a program for DV, even though initially wasn't required. And I'm just like behind that phone, just like, oh my gosh, But at the same time, I had this feeling like, okay, Lord, like, if you allowed this to happen, it's for a reason. There's a bigger purpose that I can't see. And so I'm going to trust you with that. And so we got off the phone and everything, and we were giving another 6 months to return, and hopefully they will close it then. And so then that really killed my spirit for the day. I was really down. I just felt horrible. It just didn't sit right with me. Everything like wow, I just felt like, even though there was like no evidence, and even though like it didn't carry weight in court what they were trying to say about me, is the fact that they were saying it. The fact that they were saying these things about me. And throughout the day I was just down. And finally, when it was time for me to go to bed, I was praying, and then it just came to my remembrance how Christ, before he was crucified, they gave him the cross to take all the way to the mountain. And throughout that time, they were spitting on him. They were throwing rocks at him. They were telling him all kinds of stuff. They spit on him. And Jesus did nothing. He was an innocent man. And he took all this stuff, all these false allegations, accusations against him. And he still picked up his cross and did what he had to do. He didn't hold anything against the people that were doing it. And I felt that that's what he was putting in my heart, that even though, because let me tell you, it's so easy to get angry about people that are lying against you, that they're trying to kill your character. They're trying to really taint it. Like, they're trying to say that you're a person that you're not. And that is going to upset you. You are going to feel a certain way about the people that are doing that. And pretty much God was telling me, you got to let that go. Like, look, all they said and did to me, and I still loved. So you have to forgive, and you have to give it to me. And that's what I did, and I thank God that he is able to always, in every situation, kind of come and rescue us from our own feelings, because it's so easy to get caught up in your own feelings. And that's when anger starts getting in your heart, and then comes resentment, and then bitterness, and you don't want that in your heart, and it's really hard not to feel that way for someone that's constantly coming against you, constantly saying things about you and lying about you. And it's really hard. So it's something that I have to practice every day. Every day he comes against me with something. He's disconnected my cell phone 4 times already, because unfortunately when I bought my phone, we bought it under his Apple ID, and according to the phone company, whoever bought it under that ID has authority to call at any given time and report the phone stolen, and that's what he's been doing. And that's retaliation. That's the type of passive aggressive that he is. He has never come directly at me and told me anything, or right after the separation, he hasn't. Everything has been like behind me, like when he's doing this doctor stuff, all behind me, saying these things about me, disconnecting my phone, withholding child support, withholding child care expenses, all this stuff that he's been doing. Like, this is his way of, I'm getting you back, by the control. He wants that control still. But thank God for the court systems in those cases, because even though, yes, I have been waiting for a while for these things to go through, but I know eventually they will go through. And in fact, one of them already has gone through. So it's just a matter of just being patient and just waiting on the courts, and everything will set into place. Because stuff like that, I mean, your obligation is your obligation, and you can only get away for so long, and then eventually it's going to catch up to you, just like it did to my other ex, where he owes me all these thousands of dollars, which he can't even pay, without all that interest that they accumulate. Like, that's the highest interest anyone can have. So guys, if you guys have children and owe child support, you better pay, because literally that's the highest interest that you would ever have to pay, more than a house, a car. And like literally, like it's almost if the payment is, let's say, $500, and you're not paying, like each month they accumulate like another $200 of interest of that that's $700, and that's every month. So I mean, you'll never finish paying child support. So that's advice for you guys out there. Don't do that. Like, you guys think that some people think they're going to get away with it, but they're not. It's going to catch up. Those children are yours. You got to take care of them. And then you see all these guys taking care of stepchildren when they can't even take care of their own children. And that's been my experience as well, but it is what it is. That's why we need strong mothers out there that are going to do both jobs, mom and dad, so that, someone's got to be strong. Someone's got to do it. And so anyways, kind of the reason I wanted to share that is because I know that we all go through this, where people are going to come against you. They're going to try to taint your character. They're going to try to destroy you. And when things like that happen, like, you got to remember to give it to God, that God sees everything, and he's a judge of everything. He's a just God. And so, like I said, this is where the blessing comes. Okay. So I don't like what I'm hearing at court, because nothing's good, right? I still have to take these DV classes. So the blessing comes where I was able to get a court order to be able to give my son the help that he needed. So all glory to God for that. That came something good out of that. Secondly, this DV classes, even though I saw them as an inconvenience, let me tell you, I'm learning a lot. There's a group of girls that basically they're all victims, even though they're there. It's because it's like what I experienced. And I think that's what, connects us, because we're all at one point had enough, and you react. Okay. And then they'll use that against you. And so one of the girls that was in that DV class, she was being abused for years, physically abused. Thank God my current marriage, I was never physically abused. That was not the case. He probably pushed me 1 or 2 times, but other than that, he never struck me. Our abuse was different. With him was more passive aggressive abuse, where he would withhold finances, and he would verbally abuse me, emotionally abuse me. So it was just stuff like that. It wasn't more the physical, but this person was being physically abused, and at one point it stopped for quite a while, and I don't know what triggered it, that they end up arguing again, and the guy was trying to kill her. He was choking her, and when she ran out the house trying to run for her life, he comes running after her. She jumps in her car. She's trying to flee. The guy jumps on top of her hood, and she's still trying to leave. So she goes in the car, panicked, because we all know how it feels when you're trying to run away from your life. And so next thing you know, she goes, and the guy's still on the hood. Next thing you know, he calls the cops, accuses her of attempted murder. She's in jail with pressed charges of attempted murder. They take her children. They open a case in DCFS. She has a restraining order against her. And I really think there's really something wrong with the court system, because they only look at what they're presenting, but they don't look at what led to that event. They don't ask, oh, well, what happened, and were you abused, or what? I mean, that's very important, because at that point they completely disregarded the fact that she could have been strangled to death, and that she was really just trying to escape for her life. And so another case was another young girl. The guy was very abusive. He punches her in the face. So she calls the cops for her protection. So then they end up taking away the kids, and then they end up arresting her. I don't know how that happened. And get a restraining order against her. And she's now in our class. And so I think, like, a lot of times it's like even she says, I don't even know why I called the police. I regret it, because I'm the one who got punched, and yet they believed him, and now I'm here. But at the end of the day, we have, the blessing in that is that we've got to learn so many things. Now, me and those women know what a true healthy relationship should look like. We know that there's supposed to be boundaries in a relationship, healthy boundaries. There has to be partnership. And there's a lot of things that I didn't know, and so when I'm in there, like, wow, like, no, I definitely didn't have any partnership. Oh yeah, I definitely was going through economic abuse. And it'll start resonating with her. Oh my gosh, I never really saw it that way. You don't think of it that way until you're being educated. So I thank God for, even though, at first I felt inconvenienced, but then I think about it, well, if all this wouldn't have happened, would I really left the relationship? Probably not. Yes, I used to always threaten that I would leave him and divorce him, and that's when he would always try to run before me and file, and then try to dissolve it. And if all this wouldn't have happened with the court, with the children's services, would I really gone and went and got parenting and DV classes on my own? Absolutely not, because nobody feels that they need anything, right? So we always think that we already know everything, and guess what? We don't. And so I think that's been the blessing in disguise, that I have met a lot of strong, beautiful women. We're empowering each other. We're learning from each other. Now we know what to expect from the new relationship when we're ready for that new relationship, what to bring into that. And it has to be a healthy relationship. And so, I just wanted to share that with you guys, that whatever you guys experience, or whatever's being said about you guys, even if it looks horrible, if it looks bad, just know that, especially if you know that you're doing everything that is right, and still things don't seem to be aligning for you or going right for you, all you have to do is wait on God. There's something bigger there that you may not understand, you cannot see yet, because things don't look good. But like I said, so far from this, I've met a lot of beautiful women because of these classes. I've learned a lot because of these classes. My parenting classes also, they've been amazing people that I've been meeting. And so my child is now getting the therapy that he needs because of this. And so now, so blessings is in disguise, guys. That's all I could say. Everything's going to fall into place. And I hope that, by me sharing the story, somebody's being blessed by it, and someone is doesn't lose hope if things are not going well for you. So that's it, guys. Till next time.